So my name's Steve Jacobs. Currently, I'm head of talent acquisition for the UK and expansion markets at VOI. So for those of you who don't know, VOI Technology are one of, if not the leaders in Europe for micromobility. My role here is to build and shape our talent across the UK and expansion markets. I work very closely with our C-suite to develop our talent growth strategy and our workforce planning for all white collar and blue collar hiring. My background, I've been working in recruitment industry for 16 years. Started off traditional route through agency, then made my way in-house and humbled enough to say that I've worked for some well-known companies such as Criteo, Bizarre Voice, and gone through actually a couple of IPOs, which is very exciting. And I guess the biggest project I've actually been involved in was McDonald's Europe, where I joined to help to deliver the digital transformation across 27 countries.
That's great, Stephen. Thank you for finding time to be with us on the Ivy podcast today. How
Pleasure.
long you've been with Voy now?
So, I mean, I've only really been with Voy since mid-July, so coming up to 4 months, but we're very much a hyper-growth business, and we've gone from three, so I joined when we were three people, to over 126 people now in the
Wow.
UK.
Well, that is hyper growth in a very short period of time. So I'm definitely excited to talk to you a little bit more about that, how you manage that, and all around talent acquisition. That's an exciting topic. I'm very excited to talk about things like that. So definitely appreciate you making time. So to take that a little bit further, when it comes to talent acquisition, we very familiar with traditional tools that a lot of talent acquisition teams or experts, even recruiters use, like LinkedIn and other platforms as such. From your standpoint, what are the most kind of effective tools that talent acquisition professionals are not yet utilizing but should? If you have any recommendations from that standpoint, I think we would love to hear that.
Sure. So I think firstly, I've always thought that workforce planning tools are underutilized. When you're building an organization and you need to plan ahead, you know, you have so much data in your business that you're collecting around things like, attrition, retention, that, it's all about kind of you're planning to upskill your business if you want to stay ahead of the curve. Secondly, I think sometimes, TA focus on the wrong things, like trying to create their own ATS or CRM systems. And now, I'm not saying that everyone does this, but my view is that these tools already exist on the market and they do solve a problem. So why not use them and reduce your time and then focus your efforts on what you can control rather than what you can't control. And then thirdly, DE and I, right? So diversity. Unfortunately, what I've seen a lot of recently, over the last, I'd say 6 months, I've seen a lot of lip service around diversity. And I think it's because nobody really wants to be caught out, not following the trend. But I don't think this is really a trend in my view. I think diversity has always been something which has always been with us and will continue to be a big priority in organizations that really believe in this subject and believe that it is a part of their cultural values. And I believe that TA have a big part to play rather than posting jobs or asking for external consultants to help them become a more diverse organization. I think that they need to look more internally and ask their own employees what they could be doing more of when it comes to diversity. And maybe it's a simple case of TA owning the fact that their employees need more further education around DE and I as well.
Right, absolutely. And something that you've mentioned as you were talking about the different tools or strategies for talent acquisition is around trends, things that that are developing in the current times. So from your standpoint, when it comes to staffing or talent acquisition trends or ideas uh, that will come out as a result of current times, what are the types of trends are you currently observing? Which ones are you interested in? Which ones would you invest personally? What excites you?
I think the most obvious one right now is remote working. And I say remote working, not working from home.
Hmm.
Because I've seen a lot of people who describe them, their company is working from home. And I'm like, well, working from home is completely different, right? Are you actually working? I think it's great to see so many platforms being able to cater for the remote working. But I still think that remote onboarding is still in its early phases
Hmm.
and definitely be improved. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some fantastic organizations out there that have done a great job and have won awards for their remote onboarding. But I guess it depends on the size of the organization as well and how much resource you have to put into that too. But as well as this, I think your own talent pool has gone, which is great. I believe, by the way, this I think that when you are now in a situation where you're able to focus on remote working, your talent pool has now gone from being local to global,
Right.
which also means that your culture is about to change, or
Mm.
is it? Right. That is obviously a discussion point. How are you able to kind of maintain your culture when you have been used to recruiting certain types of profiles within certain types of markets for so long, and
Mhm.
you're changing now as a business?
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting, and I couldn't agree more with you. We operate in a similar space. One of our divisions is provides the IT staffing services along with management consulting, and we do software development, just all around that. And we've seen a tremendous growth in that remote workforce that you're talking about, not only from the onboarding recruiting perspective, but also to be able to expand your pool of candidates and really target now candidates on a global scale. So that's very, I'm sure it also brings a set of challenges as well, like you talked about in terms of, the culture and a lot of all of those things. So that's, I'm curious how that's going to work out. From your standpoint, are you looking to, implement any of these trends as part of your operations, as part of your organization in the near future? And if so, what kind of ideas or trends are you observing?
So are you referring to more best practices or technology as a whole?
Either or, if there's a process improvement technique, or if there's a particular tool that you've been observing for quite some time, and you see the fit as part of your organization. I'm curious to get your perspective. What type of solutions are those?
Mm. So I mean, I would say that we're quite. VOI as a business is, it's a couple of years old, so I'd say we're still a relatively new organization.
Hmm.
We're constantly learning as we go, especially as we expand in new markets. We'll have more satellite offices. So I think making sure that we have, for us, making sure that we have the right tools, communication tools in place to be able to, communicate with all of those satellite offices in almost sort of like 24/7. I'm not saying we're working 24/7, but in a 24/7 capacity, because we're all on different time zones as well.
Right.
So I definitely think, again, making sure that we have the right communication tools in place for us is absolutely critical, because our business is constantly changing all the time, and we need to be always ahead in what we're doing. But then again, and then referring back to the best practices is, developing and making sure that we have the right best practices in place to be able to do that, right? And because if we don't want to make people feel that they have to be, sorry about the beeping in the background, that they have to be online all the time either.
Right.
Mental health is huge for us, and we don't want people to be burning out either.
Right. Right. Absolutely. When we talk about different technologies for talent acquisition or staffing, especially advanced tech such as machine learning, artificial intelligence, those are reinventing industries as a whole. Software development, information technology, and talent acquisition is no exception.
Yeah.
Um, from your standpoint, How do these, advanced technologies are impacting talent acquisition space, and what are your recommendations as far as leveraging these technologies as part of your, the recruiting, staffing, and talent acquisition operations?
No, it's a good question. So I'm obviously a huge fan of technology, and I love the way that it encompasses and supports TA teams, but also organisations as a whole. In any case, that said, my view is that robotic processing, automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. I think these are here to support us, but not to make us obsolete. And I know that this has obviously been a high talking point the last few years. People have been worried about their jobs. Are robots going to take over our jobs? And I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, because where are the machines learning from? Us. So if there's no us around, how will they evolve?
Right.
But I think there are some great platforms that are now emerging to assist us with things such as, volume assessment recruitment, right? 2019 and 2020 has definitely shown us that we're able to collate huge amounts of data to help us make decisions to the point where talent acquisition becomes almost like a product function.
Right.
So the great thing here is that if you know about product innovation, you know that it's all about creating something new and exciting and improving functionality. For instance, going from gas to electric cars is a strong example.
Right, right, absolutely. And that the whole space of kind of candidate assessment, and there's been an emergence of different types of solutions and tools out there that really help streamline certain areas, I guess, of candidate assessment. And it definitely needs to be the right fit for the type of, I guess, operations or the organization. So
Yeah, it does.
definitely very interesting, kind of what you were talking about from the whole advanced technology standpoint, which only going to continue to evolve. So that's pretty exciting. Um, to shift topics a little bit, I want to get your perspective on attracting very niche talent to your teams. Obviously, the market has changed. It used to be a war for talent out there. I'm pretty sure there is still for certain areas of, whether that's information technology or very niche areas. What has worked well for you, or maybe what has not, and you learned from that when it comes to strategies to attract the very niche and top talent to your operations, to your organization?
So, again, I've been here a short period of time. So although it's not been entirely done here at VOI yet, it is something which we're working on right now. But I would say that in the past, I have focused a lot on recruitment marketing as a strategy. So it's starting from the top, right? So making sure that you have a strong employer and employee brand, and creating a simplified candidate journey experience, managing, this is just my view, obviously, managing the expectation of the candidate and potential employee along the entire journey. So it's about being transparent, right? Providing lots of materials, lots of information about the company, but very importantly, about selling the job, because we do such a great job of, attracting candidates and attracting real interest. We spend a lot of money on it, right? But you come to the end and you're like, has the candidate actually been sold the job? Have you actually sold the company?
Right.
So I do think that, as an organizer, there are lots of people who, sorry, I had a brain freeze there.
No, but I love what you're saying from that standpoint of really controlling and investing into that candidate experience. I think it's of utmost importance because, like you said, a lot of money is being spent on, building the brand and attracting the talent.
So the thing is that, are we doing a good enough job of, one, selling the opportunity, but also how, are we explaining how the role fits into the bigger picture?
Right. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
a lot of candidates they want to know what their journey is going to look like within the organization, whether it's in 18 months, 2 years, 5 years. Could they have an aspiration to become the CEO one day, right?
Right.
So how do we paint that picture for them?
Right, absolutely. And I love what you're saying in terms of really focusing on it almost investing into candidate interviewing you as well as an organization. That
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. It's, you both assessing the fit from the candidate standpoint, and for candidate to be comfortable to understand these are the people that I'm going to be working with, most of the time out of my day, and who's the leadership of the organization. I think it also goes hand in hand with being able to effectively promote the internal culture of the organization. So that's very exciting. So thank you for sharing that. Um, when it comes to currently adapted processes, when it comes to hiring and onboarding, obviously a lot of organizations had to adapt their processes with everything shifting to remote. How what challenges have you faced through this period when it comes to remote interviewing or even remote onboarding, and what changes have you made to adapt and maybe make your processes better?
Um, so I'd say the obvious one is technology mostly.
Mhm.
Sometimes Wi-Fi is not always on your side. Sometimes platforms like Google Hangout or Zoom are not always on your side due to high amounts of usage, as we've seen again over the last 6 to 8 months. So I think that investing in the right interview platforms is definitely key. Employee onboarding is a very learned exercise. Sometimes we get it wrong, and we make sure that we take that feedback from the employee to get it right. But having everyone aligned to make sure what we call onboarders, know when it's time for them to educate and onboard the employee definitely helps. I've also found that remote hiring is far quicker now than, and it has actually reduced our time to hire by at least by at least 2/3.
Mhm.
We are able to turn around decisions in a week. And this is simply because I think candidates and hiring managers are far more flexible around timings for interviews, especially as they're not traveling as much. Time is not a factor when the role is important, when the role is an important one to hire. Um, and again, I think it's yeah, time. People don't really take notice of time anymore. I certainly don't.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's definitely a different perception of
I don't know
time.
if that's a good thing or bad thing, but like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Um, you mentioned a little bit around interviewing remotely. Can you share with us any, especially if you were talking to a candidate or some you were giving a feedback to somebody who wants to get a job at, let's say, at VOI, um, and doing a really good job interviewing candidates remotely for some of your hiring managers, I guess, as well. What recommendations would you provide? What are the kind of the best practices, or what's something that's maybe two things to avoid when interviewing remotely?
So, so a couple of questions in there. Firstly, I would say, being as transparent as you can be about the company and the role during the application process. Um, we've created a page on our career site where you can actually upload short video of yourself.
Oh, wow,
Uh,
nice.
and then the practical stuff around, when you are interviewing people, uh, especially over video, make sure that your environment is almost as if you were in the workplace, right? Don't have the TV on in the background. Turn off your mobile. Take away all the distractions. And if you are in a kind of a messy environment, perhaps maybe you might want to change your background.
Mhm.
Uh, it's about just being sensible, right? And also, you are in an interview, and you should treat it like an interview. So dress presentable.
Mhm.
Uh, I've
Got it.
seen I've seen some wonderful videos um, where people have just literally just turned up in jogging bottoms and a t-shirt and not even shaved, not even shaved, and I'm just like, If you're not serious about the interview, why then you're not really showing, how much you want to actually interview this person, and you're not expanding that motivation to them to want to join your organization, right? It's a two,
Absolutely.
as you said before, it's a two-way street.
Right, right, absolutely. I think the whole shift in COVID that also changed some perceptions of people, kind of the actual, being virtual and on the Zoom versus in person. So I've definitely heard some stories. I've definitely seen some pretty funny things happening. So that's pretty cool. Um, from the market that you guys operate in, what are some of the examples of kind of very niche or most in demand skill sets that are hard to find for you guys?
So hard to find. Um, I think the restriction, first of all, is that micromobility
Hmm.
is still new, right? It's only been around a couple of years. Well, scooters, I would say, has only been around a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
And it's finding people for us who have knowledge and understanding of what it takes to launch in new markets, um, scooters in particular, or e-scooters in particular. So what we've done a lot in the past is hire people from competitors, just like most people do, because you are under pressure to launch within time restraints.
Right.
And but once you get past that, then we take it to the next level, right? So we look at a lot. If you look at what we actually do as an organization, there is a lot of planning, a lot of strategic planning, and a lot of analysis and analytics that we use, making sure that we are delivering in the right cities, to what to what the expectations have been met by those cities, and that we're monitoring it constantly. So we're now hiring a lot of people who have worked within strategic planning and analysis. So that could be quite a management consultancy background,
Uh-huh.
as an example, but also understanding technology at the same time. Um, and sometimes you get a lot of people who have come from organizations who are much larger than us, who are used to certain processes in certain ways, but are not as flexible. Whereas here we actually, we are very flexible in our way of thinking, and we're quite scrappy, as you would expect within a startup, but it's scrappy to the point that we will always learn from that and find a solution immediately. So it's again trying to find people who understand about how to do a lot of solving problems, for a lot of our cities, whilst maintaining the relationships with the cities themselves.
Right. Um, are probably, I'm sure you're familiar with Bolt scooters
Great
here in
company,
US.
great company.
You're a good company. One of my colleagues, who is also a host on the Ivy podcast, him and I were talking this morning, and I told him I'm interviewing you today, and he said, "Oh, no way!" And I forgot her name. She's the CEO, the founder of Bolt Scooters. So I'm like, wow, it's a small world, you know.
Yeah. I mean, they're on a huge, expansion drive, and obviously, recruitment drive as well.
Mhm.
But they've done incredibly well.
Right, right. You guys have any plans expanding into U.S. market, or primarily Europe? I don't know. To the extent you can share, I guess, your guys' strategy.
You've not signed an NDA, so I can't give you that information. Um, yeah, I mean, the word is expansion, right? So
Mhm.
we obviously have plans to expand in other markets,
Right.
um, but right now we're very focused on being that number one player in Europe. The UK has shown us so much trust, and we're investing in the UK right now substantially. We've won a lot of cities, which we're really, really proud of.
Mhm.
And I think the reason why we've won a lot of these cities, and that's really something which is quite interesting, is team, right? It's not an individual role what we play here. We have such a fantastic, inclusive team that this is why we win these cities. right? It's about everybody has each other's backs. It's not a 9 to 5 job. We know it's not a 9 to 5 job, but we see the results at the end of it, and we all feel so proud and humble that we've been able to achieve that. And that success will just go on and on and on, and we'll build on that. So I'm pleased to, I'm not pleased, but I'm really excited and incredibly happy to be working for such an amazing business and amazing founders as well.
Right. Right. Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I'm come from a very entrepreneurial background myself, and a lot of the projects I'm involved with is, that hyper growth, that startup stage. It's, it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work. Um,
Oh, yeah, but you get to see the results at the end, right?
right. Yeah, exactly. You guys are writing your own book. You guys are writing your own rules, which is, I think, to me, the most exciting, thing whenever I get involved with any type of project. So definitely, I feel for you exactly what you guys are going through, which is super exciting. Steve, last but not least, what one book that you always recommend to others, and why?
So one book actually that's um, helped me quite a lot actually is, first of all, it's not hugely recruitment related, but I personally have found this book to be, as I said, useful to myself, because if you're working in a hyper growth business like I am today, then change is inevitable, right? And this book, called Who Moved My Cheese,
Hmm.
great for, I think it's quite an underestimated book, because it's great for business and personal life too.
Uh-huh.
Uh, because let's face it, one always affects the other, right? And what I think what this book really teaches you is how to deal with change constantly.
Right. I love that book. I gotta revisit it. I've read it a long time ago, but
Did it,
this
right?
couple
You
yeah,
forget it. It's a great reminder. It's one of these books you can just go straight back into.
no, for sure. And there's a lot of really cool lessons that I'm pretty sure now would resonate in a completely different perspective. So thanks for bringing that up for our listeners. We'll make the title and the author of this book available in episode notes. Steve, I know you got to go grow your company to and dominate Europe.
Thank
I know
you.
how busy you are. So I really appreciate your time, the length expertise today. It was very insightful. And I definitely look forward to staying in touch and learning more about you guys' growth.
Most welcome. Thank you very much for your time.